Hey, folks. So, welcome to the sentencing phase of the Texas Bar-Brawl trial. Mr. Randone yesterday was found guilty of, I believe it was aggravated assault with resulting in greater bodily disfigurement or something of the sort. And today, the jury gets to hear the state and the defense bringing their arguments regarding what they feel the correct sentencing would be. In Texas, I believe in the sentencing phase, unless judge decides otherwise, you get to hear possible priors. So if Mr. Randone or Randone has priors, that will be revealed. So that is what's going on today. Let's just say, yeah, I have play on. I am actually live. Now this was supposed to start at 9 a.m. Judge Boyd said it yesterday, and she is punctual AF. So I'm not sure why they haven't started yet, but who knows? She might have decided that part of this specific sentencing phase, the beginning of it, she's just talking to the attorneys. Now, I got home maybe 25 minutes ago, setting up the stream and all the thingies. And so if you don't mind, I'm having ice cream for lunch. Nom nom nom. Mascarpone flavor, which is strawberries and pistachios. Oh, Brain Socks over at Rumble. Thank you for your $2 Rumble rant, saying a little support lurking as I work. Thank you so much, Brain Socks. You are you are very, very generous, because every now and then I look over at Rumble and all of a sudden I have a $2 Rumble rant from Brain Socks. That is very, very nice of you. Thank you so much. So yeah, again, I don't know what's taking Judge Boyd time today, but there she controls the live, so she is there somewhere. Gwenly says, I finished off my ice cream last night, had it with pumpkin spice, no calorie syrup. Hey, that works. That works. Now, I buy these. It's a decent package. It's $3, and it's really nice. So is it ice cream? No, it's not ice cream. It's ice cream, but it still tastes good. Made with artificial strawberries, but I do believe the pistachios are real. So yeah. So come on, Judge Boyd. Yep. Hopefully, today I get a little bit more viewers, because there's no Karen Reed trial today. So hopefully I wonder what's going on elsewhere. I'm having a bit of a slump lately in the viewerships here on YouTube. And I don't know really why, but maybe it's because I do not cover the Karen Reed trial. So yeah, hopefully people will show up. Ooh, first Gigi says, I still have peach cobbler left from yesterday. I forgot the ice cream. Oh, Gwendolyn, do you think the jury will recommend the maximum? It's hard to say. I mean, when TK, his sentence, even with a prior murder conviction, which could have rendered him 99 years for murder one, not capital murder, he got 80. So it's hard to say. If this is Mr. Randone's absolute first crime or conviction, they might go easy on him. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say. Oh, Karen Reed got sick. Oh, poor thing. Let's see here. Let's check in with Kathy Russon and see what she says. She says nothing. It seems like she is fallen ill of sorts. Hi, Christine. Good to see you. Hi, Gwendolyn, Gigi. Yeah, hello. Hello. Yeah, I see people are referencing it, but there's no real public. I can't see a public statement. It says just as unavoidable circumstances, which means that either a witness didn't show up or somebody is sick. Somebody essential to the proceedings is sick. And there's not a lot of people that are that essential in the Karen Reed trial except Karen Reed and Mr. Brennan, Prosecutor Brennan. Okay, they are starting to move around in the courtroom. So we should start to hear. I mean, she is going to have a sentencing, but we do know that in the breaks she does ordinary docket work. But the sentencing phase, because the defense said they had 3 or 4 witnesses. So you can count on at least 20 minutes each for these witnesses. So that's over an hour. Prosecution, I don't think they said they would call anybody. They would just speak to their point. So still waiting. Did they find him guilty? Yes, Mr. Randone was found guilty yesterday. Guilty of, I believe it was aggravated assault resulting in bodily harm or permanent disfigurement, something of the sort. And I do believe it was the correct sentencing. Let's see it, Texas. $2 to 20 years in prison and a fine up to $10,000. So he's facing between 2 and 20 years. Now he is in his 50s or maybe even early 60s. So if they go high on the sentencing, yeah, that's more or less a life sentencing. Yeah, as you can see, they are now arguing before Judge Boyd. So she's there. Yeah.
We're going to go on the record, and could someone line the jurors up?
All right, here we go. Sentencing phase. Jury gets to...
All right, the court is calling
What's that?
2024 CR 2338B, State versus Mariano Randone. Can I have parties announced for the record for the state?
Megan Galloway and Jason Garaham for the state.
Larry Bloomquist for the defense. I'm here with Mr. Randone, the defendant.
All right, are both parties ready to proceed with this phase of the trial?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So I will inform that all of the jurors are here, so we're going to bring them in. Are both parties going to have opening statements?
I'm probably going to reserve my opening statement for the beginning of my case.
All right.
Yeah, I'll waive mine.
Okay.
Oh, both are reserving their opening statement. Okay.
You want us to bring our witness in?
Yes.
Oh, I will
Yep.
invoke the rule, and I do think I have some witnesses that are here.
Oh, and just have them already sitting in the gallery, because since y'all are, I'm going to ask for opening statements. It's sort of odd
Yeah.
for them to be sitting there. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And for the record, for this phase, the
Yeah,
trial,
this part is really
both
interesting
parties are
because
invoking the
we
rule. Is that
learn
correct?
things
Yes.
that
All right.
wasn't
So just
allowed
make sure
in
your
trial.
witnesses are not present, and
Okay.
I'll depend on you all to do that.
Yes, Judge.
Right. And then they're bringing your first witness state into the gallery. Okay.
Yes, Judge.
Oh, no, just have him sit there and then we'll bring him up. All right, let's bring them in.
Hi, Fansize.
All rise for the jury.
Mr. Mandone is already found guilty. This is the sentencing phase. So the prosecution and the defense will argue before the jury what sentence the jury should recommend to the judge. But it's ultimately the judge's decision. Now, Judge Boyd, in the trials I've seen with her, she always goes by the recommendation from the jury. So whatever the jury recommends usually becomes the sentence.
Everyone, please be seated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the second phase of the trial. State, do you have any opening statements?
We waive, Your Honor.
All right, defense, any opening statements?
I'll reserve my opening statement. Your Honor.
All right, state, call your first witness.
The state calls Detective Burek.
Okay. This detective testified in trial as well, I believe. Let's see if I recognize him. Yeah.
All right, if you could raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand, have a seat. There should be a square microphone that's up there. If you could put that somewhere on your lapel or shirt. And if you'll make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, state, you may proceed.
Detective, what is your name?
Detective William Bjork.
And how are you currently employed?
I work for the city of San Antonio as a detective with the San Antonio Police Department,
How long have you been employed with the San Antonio Police Department?
20 years.
And to become a detective, did you have to pass an exam?
Yes, ma'am.
And what type of training did you undergo to become a police officer?
We did several months in the academy, training us with penal code, CCP tactics, all of those, the things necessary to perform our job.
All right. And as a detective with SAPD, are you a certified peace officer?
Yes, ma'am.
And what unit are you with specifically with SAPD?
I work for the night criminal detectives.
Okay. And what are your duties as is that commonly known as night CID?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what are your duties as a night CID detective?
Yes, ma'am. So we work a period of time at night when the other detectives are not working, and we handle all of the felony cases that come in that time of the night. So if it's a felony, the officers will call us and they'll kind of give us an idea of what they have at the scene. If it's a scene where there's evidence that needs to be collected or people that need to be spoken to or a case that we can work and move forward, then we'll go out to the scene and we'll take over as the handling detective.
Okay. And so were you employed as a night CID detective with SAPD on July 23rd of 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
And were your duties the same as you just explained on that night?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and were you assigned to a call under SAPD 2316-2245?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you generate an investigative supplement for that case?
Yes, ma'am.
Would it help you to refresh your memory if you had a copy of it?
I do have a copy.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Well,
Do you want to provide me with one? Okay.
All right, I'm showing you what has been marked for identification purposes as State's Exhibit number 9. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, ma'am.
And is it a fair and accurate copy of the report authored by yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it contains your name and badge number?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now you can refresh your memory, just please don't read from it. Do you recall the location that you were dispatched to under that SMC case number?
Yes.
And was that located at 6844 Ingram Road, San Antonio, Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that located in Bear County, Texas?
Yes, it is.
Do you recall what type of location that was?
It is a nightclub,
And do you recall the name of it?
Joe's Volcano.
Okay. And can you describe to the jury the scene that you encountered upon arrival?
So upon my arrival, officers had already made the scene and had identified individuals that were involved in the incident and had them separated for me, which is our standard procedure. The location of the incident was the front parking lot of that establishment. They have a small parking area in the front that they use for like VIP or valet parking. And then most of the parking is off to the far side, but the incident took place right into the front area where the VIP parking is.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you what has been marked as State's Exhibits P1 through P4. Can you take a look at these and tell me if you recognize them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And are those a fair and accurate depiction of the scene as you observed it on July 23rd of 2023?
Yes, it is.
And have they been altered in any way?
No, ma'am.
At this time, the state is tendering States P1 through P4 to defense for inspection and offerings.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibits P1, P2, P3, and P4 is admitted without objection.
Permission to publish.
Granted.
Parker, can you see that up there?
Yes.
Okay. Can you please explain to the jury? what is
Sadly, we
observed
can't
in
see
State's
the
Exhibit
screen
P1?
on Judge Boyd's Zoom.
This
feed.
is the front entrance to the location.
Okay. And in State's Exhibit P2.
This is the area where the incident took place. As you can see, evidenced by the markers near the orange cone there where the shell casings were located.
State's Exhibit P3.
Shell casings.
This is a similar shot. It's just a little bit further back. It's showing
There was
more
no
of the
shooting that
location of
night.
the shell casing.
Okay, and I guess, what are those yellow placards that are depicted in the State's Exhibit P3?
So those are the placards that are used by our CSIs to notate a location where evidence is found.
Okay, and so you observed.
There was no
shell
testimony about
casings and,
shootings in this case.
Here and here,
Why are
Yes.
those interesting?
and then State's Exhibit P4.
Those are just, it's further, it's a wider angle over towards the, I guess it would be towards the left side of that area where the final shell casings were located.
Okay. And so you said that, do you recall the reason that you were dispatched to the location?
Yes, ma'am. They received a call from the security at the location that they had discharged their firearms in
What?
defense of themselves.
Okay,
That,
and so
folks,
once you were on,
folks, this was not testified to at trial, that they had to discharge their weapons. This might be a prior bad act. Yeah, it might be. I'm as surprised as you are, guys. This was not testified to, but this might go to other instances of that bar being in trouble. Let's listen and find out.
scene, you stated that the patrol officers had everyone separated, and did you have an opportunity to take statements from involved parties?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do you recall if you spoke, well, do you recall if you spoke with the defendant in this case?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Okay. And when you spoke with him, were you wearing a body worn camera?
Yes, ma'am, I was.
Okay, and were you competent to operate that body worn camera on that date?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm showing you what has been marked as P5. Do you recognize what this is?
Yes, ma'am. That's the disc with my body worn camera statement on it.
Okay, and have you observed this before?
I have.
And did you add any identifying marks to it?
Yes, I initialed it and put my badge number.
Okay, is that how you're able to recognize that it's the same thing that you've observed?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate depiction of the interview as it occurred on the offense date?
Yes.
And has it been altered in any way?
No.
At this time, the state is offering.
I've reviewed it and I have no objections to the exhibit.
All right, State's Exhibit P5 is admitted without objection.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Granted.
Do you recall the defendant's name that you took the interview from?
Yes, ma'am.
What was?
Mariano Randone.
And I'm publishing states exhibit P.
Okay. What is your name? Mariano. Mariano? Yes. Okay, that's all right. What's your last name? Randone. Randone? Yes, sir. Okay, what's your date of birth? 4/30/1970. 4/30/1970. Okay, so your wife owns the place? Yes. And what do you do here? Co-owners? Yeah. Okay, so what is your job tonight? What were you doing as far as? Sure. Okay. Okay, thanks for the number. Do you work most nights?
No.
Just on Saturdays? Okay. All right. So
I'm
what,
here to assist them.
I gotcha. So what happened tonight?
They were having a problem with that. I was in my vehicle.
Okay.
Some kind of stomach problems. And I was in my vehicle and this guy, they were escorting him out. And I overheard him saying something about making some kind of fights.
Okay.
I skipped him and said, just leave. He would turn back around, kept leave, just leave, turn back around, just, he was like, I'm leaving, but he wouldn't leave, and then finally gets in his truck, and I'm over there, in the middle.
Okay. Which one of these is your vehicle?
The Escalade.
Oh, okay. But it was parked over here at the time?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do you know which space it was in?
The first one, they empty one, the first one.
The one, okay. All right. So you were parked in that one in Escalade.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So he gets into the car.
Yes, and I'm over here in the middle, like where the cement's at, that center,
Okay.
I'm over there, and.
So you had gotten out of your car.
Yes.
Okay.
And, I was walking, like, from my vehicle to the middle. And that's when they were trying to leave, and then when he got in his vehicle, he came out real strong about getting out, and I was right in front of the vehicle, and I jumped out of the way. And, I don't remember if he contacted me or not, I haven't said that.
Okay.
That's all I remember on that.
Okay.
And I'm in the traffic there, so yeah.
Okay. So most likely he didn't even know you were there. He was just getting out. Because you hadn't had an issue with him earlier. You hadn't, right? It was just your security.
Yeah, I mean, well, I was right in front of me.
Right.
It's gonna matter.
Right. No, I understand that, but I'm saying he wasn't like when he peeled out of here, he was just
We kept telling him to leave.
right. Were you telling him to leave as well?
Telling him to leave as well.
Okay. And so when he
And then
peeled,
he was saying some kind of, I don't know what he was saying.
okay. All right. So he peels out, and then you have to kind of dodge out of the way.
Yes,
And then what happens from there?
I don't know.
Okay. So you didn't see or hear any of the shots being
I
fired?
saw him over here when he took off, and I saw, like spark or something in his knee. That's right, I do remember seeing that when the time around. So,
Okay.
that's right.
And then you followed him?
Yes, I was trying to get the lights, but I couldn't get it.
Okay. Where did you follow him to? When did you lose him?
Or camera, because he was really here this way. I was trying to get the license and I've been around the service road and he just,
Okay. So you didn't follow him for very long?
no.
Okay. All right.
So
So
I'm trying to get this license.
okay. So when did you know that your guys had fired their weapons?
But I came back.
Okay, so you didn't until you came back.
I don't remember, I blacked out. I don't remember.
Okay. All right.
I mean, under severe stress, I was just using my stomach and
Okay.
going up.
Okay. And so, what's the deal with your cameras?
My wife has been, she even has, she called earlier before when we opened up, because, the cable wasn't working for the internet.
Oh, the internet's
Yes,
not.
sir.
Okay, so without the internet, the cameras don't record at all? Okay. How long have you guys been having that problem?
Since from the beginning of the week.
Okay. So when they walked him out, you were sitting in that Escalade in that first
Yes,
parking space. Okay. And so you were kind of just watching them escort him out.
Right.
And then what prompted you to get out of your vehicle?
because they were trying to make them leave. They're trying to, they didn't put hands on them. They
Sure.
They're trying to move right around. So it was, I walked up, I was walking, well, they were up here, I was like right here. So I mean, you need to leave. And then finally he started mouthing off over here. And then that's when I heard on the security guard saying, he's already, he told him, he made a threat, you need to leave, and the guy started mouthing off and saying some other stuff.
Okay. What was he driving?
It was either a black or pickup or a blue dark.
Okay. Was it like lifted or anything like that? Okay. Okay. And so you got out just to kind of watch what was going on?
Yes.
Okay. And then he was parked in one of these two spots, I'm guessing?
Yes.
All right. And then you heard him fire the truck up and then just kind of start revving it up, or how did
He just put it in gear and floored it.
Okay.
He wasn't ready. I don't remember him ready. I just remember he just got like a bell out of hell and I was in front of it.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you could think of that's important?
No, sir.
Okay. So none of the cameras were not inside or outside, none of them.
No, girl.
Okay. And what you're I'm gonna leave you in the car just for a minute because I may need to come back and ask you some more questions. Okay? All right. You're comfortable back here and everything?
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Or yeah, this doesn't tell me much, that conversation. Yeah. Follow Jude's example. Hit the thumbs up. Yay! Hello, Jude. Good to have you here.
Hello, sir. Okay. I know it's been a little bit more time now since it happened. Do you remember any more details about what happened? Because your son's wearing a body cam. And I just watched your son's body
This
cam.
is when he lied at the court.
You didn't tell me that you had a gun.
Folks, there was testimony in the trial about him lying to a cop at the scene, claiming he was nowhere near the fight. Okay, so this is it.
Okay, well, you didn't tell me. I'm the one that. So what happened with you and the gun? Because you left out entirely that you had a gun and that you pointed the gun
I
at
didn't
him.
read anything else, sir. You were asking me questions like they asked me and I didn't answer them.
Okay. So somewhere in our conversation, it should have come up, hey, oh, by the way, I had a gun and I pointed at this guy. Did you shoot at him or did you just point it at him?
I don't remember. I blacked out.
Okay. Where is your gun now?
It's in the back.
So they have it?
Yes, sir. It's out back.
Okay.
I don't know why this wasn't brought up at trial. Probably because this is what happened outside. Apparently, what went on inside the club is separated from what went on outside of the club. Because inside of the club was where he, kneed Mr. Rodriguez in the stomach, causing bodily injury. Outside of the bar, it seems like shots were fired. And that seems to be a separate case for some reason. I don't know why. This was news, and it's really interesting.
Do you usually carry a full? Where was the gun? What is it? Is it 9mm semi-auto?
Well, yeah, I think it's a 9.
It's a
I
9.
don't remember.
You're not
I'm sure. Shipping up right now.
Okay. Do you normally carry a full magazine, one in the chamber?
No, never.
So what do you use? How do you carry it usually?
Just with magazine in there.
No, you don't carry one in the chamber?
No.
So you don't remember like wrapping the slide or?
I don't remember.
Okay. Because in the video, I can clearly see that you're pointing it at the truck, but I can't tell if you fire or not. So our CSI, since neither of us know, our CSI is gonna come over and just, you're gonna do a GSR in your hands.
Sure.
And then, so just give us a few minutes to do that, and then you guys are gonna be good to go. for now.
That's it, sir. I'm not trying to see that I'm all right, but I do tell everybody.
Okay. No, I believe you. I believe you. I believe you. I mean,
You can ask somebody else first.
yeah, I mean, you gave them the gun. I'm not mad at you. It's just when you and I talked, I guess maybe you'd already told them once, twice, whatever, and it just, it didn't come up. I know, unfortunately, that's kind of how it happens sometimes.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. All right, sir. And you're all right back here for another maybe 10 minutes or so? Okay. Okay. I appreciate it. What you needed.
Gwentin asked, why would they be bringing up that if there's a separate charge to be brought to court later? I have no idea. I know what we saw in this trial is all I know. It might be that he's already convicted, that there was a trial about that part a while ago. But yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. But yeah, this goes to sentencing and pointing guns outside and firing at trucks, maybe. Yeah, I don't think he will get the minimum.
All right, detective, and just to confirm, this occurred on July 23rd of 2023.
That is correct.
Right. In the statement, there was some mention that you observed some body worn camera footage on the scene, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and when you had a chance to observe that footage, was it consistent with the version of events that was provided by the suspects on that day?
Not entirely, no.
Okay. And what was the conclusion of your investigation on the scene?
My conclusion was that they were not justified in shooting at the vehicle.
We passed the witness, Your Honor.
All right, defense.
Have we ever met before, Officer? I'm Larry Bloomquist. I represent Mr. Randone.
Not that I know of.
We've never spoken before today, is that correct?
That's correct.
And we haven't spoken about this case before today.
No, sir.
Okay. But let's talk about the things that were consistent. In the video that you saw Mr. Randone in front of the vehicle, correct?
So in the body cam of one of the security officers, it's pretty clear he's to the side of the vehicle, not directly in front of it.
Okay, but he is in the front plane of the vehicle. In other words, what I'm saying is that let me see if I can describe it. Where Mr. Randone is, if I'm looking out the front window, I see Mr. Randone, correct? That truck.
Not directly in front of you, but you could see him, correct?
And he's actually in the path of the vehicle, correct?
The way that I saw the body cam video, I would say no.
Now, but to be fair, all the people that were there at all the different angles of this, right? All the different security officers, they all perceived a threat to Mr. Randone's safety by the vehicle traveling at a high rate of speed, correct?
I'm gonna object to speculation, Judge.
All right, that'll be overruled.
Correct?
Say that again. I'm sorry, sir.
So, but to be fair, all the security officers that were there, they perceived a threat to Mr. Randone because they all shot their guns in defense of Mr. Randone. Isn't that correct?
All right, so I'm sorry, counsel. Now that I've heard your question again.
Well, that's a different question.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is. The objection will be sustained with regards to that question.
Okay, but my question is, all these officers that are there, and they're at different places, they're not just in one static place, they're stationed all over the parking lot area. They're all going to have a better observation than a single camera. Would you agree with that?
I mean, that's hard to say one way or the other.
Well, I mean, if there's multiple officers that all perceive a threat and shoot their guns at Mr. Randone, at the vehicle that's in front of Mr. Randone, that's
The security personnel from the firm that his wife owns testifies in favor or gives statements in favor after they fired their guns. Yeah,
significant, isn't it?
I can't speculate that they all perceived a threat.
Well, they all told you they did, correct? Or other officers.
I'm gonna object to your say on any statements not from the defendant.
Right, that-
It's not offered for the truth of the matter asserted, it's offering for his conclusion, Judge.
All right, that objection will be sustained.
And did you determine how many officers shot at the vehicle? How many security officers shot at the vehicle?
That night, honestly, I don't recall for that night.
And the vehicle, when it left, it's correct that that vehicle left at a very high rate of speed,
That is correct.
correct? I mean, he actually gunned it as he was leaving that parking lot in the general direction of Mr. Randone, correct?
That is correct.
May I approach you just,
Yes.
just observe the document you're reviewing?
Yeah, I'm a bit lost here. Is this the same night?
Were
or
you
are
the
they
lead
talking
detective
about
on
a
this case, or did
completely
you get assigned to a different
separate
detective for
event?
follow-up?
It got assigned to a different detective for follow-up.
Okay. So your involvement was primarily there at the scene that night?
That is correct.
It sounds like a completely different occasion because we should
And
have
who was
heard
overall
everything
responsible
about
for the
this
scene that
at
evening?
trial. So the
Overall, it
state
was me.
is probably trying to argue this is a dangerous place.
Is that kind of normal practice for you to kind of handle the scene and then eventually turn it over to other detectives?
Yes, sir. That is correct.
And it's because you respond to a lot of things that happen at night.
That is correct.
And at the end of your report, you said this will require further investigation,
That
correct?
is correct.
And you didn't follow the investigation other than what you did that night. So in other words, you're not familiar of other witness statements that were made or other statements made by Mr. Randone or any of the other witnesses?
No, sir.
You haven't reviewed the statements that the officers made at the police station at a later time?
No, sir.
And you didn't observe any other videos that the other detectives may have gotten? The only video you reviewed was the body camera, is that correct?
Larry?
The only video that I received that night was all that I watched.
Okay. But if there's other videos of the scene, you didn't review those?
No.
There are other videos from, so the only video you saw was the one view from the one angle, correct?
From 2 body cam videos.
Okay, so you reviewed 2 body camera videos, but you didn't review another overall video of the scene, or you didn't review any of the other witness statements the other people took that night?
No, sir.
And the only statement that you took was of Mr. Randone?
I took statements from Mr. Randone and 2 of the security officers.
Okay, but there were some other security officers that were reviewed by other officers?
I believe so, yes.
I'll pass.
I have further questions for this witness.
All right, is this witness excused or subject to recall?
He's been.
Excuse me.
All right, the rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state of the defense. All right, make sure you leave the mic behind and you may step down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
As Larry Pace says here, this testimony was probably excluded at trial as prejudicial and not directly related to the assault inside the club. Yeah, but they did. Yeah, you might be right. You might be right. Good to have you here, Larry.
You'll leave that with the court reporter, please.
State, call your next witness.
Judge, can we approach with defense?
Yes.
Okay. We are few minutes behind, so we can skip ahead a bit.
All right, if you'll take a
Ah,
seat here,
there we
please.
go. Yeah, for you who don't know, this is a commentary channel. So once in a while, I will pause and say something. For you who are completely new
This
here,
one?
hi, I'm Nick. I
This one?
do labor and employment law. Not directly what is happening in here, but I do have a law degree. I know how to evaluate evidence and evaluate testimony and
You
witnesses.
solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes, All right, you can lower your hand, have a seat. Make sure that you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear. All right, oh, have a seat. State your name for the record, please.
Oscar Del Fierro.
State your name, please.
Mr. Dunfield, how old are you?
I'm 26 years old,
What city do you currently live in?
San Antonio, Texas.
About how long have you lived in San Antonio?
22 years approximately.
Did you attend high school in San Antonio, Texas?
Yes, ma'am.
What high school?
Hi, Robin. Good to have you
Southside High
here.
School and Brooks Academy.
What do you do for work currently?
Construction
And about how long have you been doing that?
for about 10 years.
Now I want to talk to you about an incident that occurred on July 23rd of 2023. Do you recall that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you on that day?
I was where the incident happened, Hills Volcano.
Okay. And is Joe Volcano located in Bear County, Texas?
Yes,
Do you know what type of location is Joe's Volcano?
a nightclub.
A nightclub? I'm gonna ask you to speak up a little
I'm
bit.
sorry,
okay?
just one moment. Are you a witness? All right. Thank you. All right, you may proceed.
And how did you end up at Joe's Volcano on that night?
My cousin and I were meeting up with friends. We got there and that's how we ended up there.
Okay. And have you attended an event before going to Joe's Volcano?
Yes, we had a family event going on.
Okay. Once you were at Joe's Volcano, what did you do while you were there?
We were there, we drank, danced.
Have you been there before or was this your first time?
I had been there a while back.
So guess it's fair to say you liked the ambiance there,
What do you mean by that?
like you enjoyed going there?
Oh, I liked it.
Yes.
Not quite. I hadn't been there in a while. I happened that friends were going and my cousin decided to go and I tagged along.
Okay. Now, while you were inside Joe's Volcano towards the end of the night, what happened?
I was there. We were standing by the dance floor. Security guard told us to get back. We get back, comes back and asks us to get back again, but physically pushing us. And from there, it was just like, hey, don't push us and stuff like that. We exchanged a little bit of words. He grabs me and he starts like shoving me all the way to the door. We go outside. He tells me to get there with vulgar language. And once we're outside, I see security guards just like around us and around me and my cousin kind of. And they ask us to get out of the place, right? And one of them pushes me the other direction from where my vehicle was. And I tell them my vehicle's on the other side. I'm gonna go over there. And then that's when Mr. Mariano starts following me. And he follows me all the way to my vehicle. We exchange words back and forth. I get on my vehicle and he's like, we're staring at each other. They get next to my vehicle and that's where everything happened.
I'm gonna show you some photos that have been entered into evidence.
It's there.
Do you recognize what is exhibited in exhibit 1? Do you recognize that?
Do I recognize that entrance?
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Is that volcano where you were hanging out on July 23rd, 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now I'm gonna show you State's Exhibit P4. Sorry, there's a glare. I'm just gonna walk up to you. Let me see if this works. Can you see that up there?
Yes, I can.
Oh. Do you recall where your vehicle was parked at the location on that night?
If that is from the entrance to the front of the club, I would say about right next to the last vehicle.
So right here on the side of this white vehicle.
About where that white vehicle was at, or
And-
right next to that white.
And so, you've described that you were pushed out of the club and you were in the parking lot and then, who is the person that approached you? You described him as Mariano. Do you know what his responsibilities were for the club?
You're asking me if I know what Mariano's responsibility for the club is?
Yeah, did you know him to be of any significance to that location?
No, just kind of on social media, doing live videos and stuff like that, and people saying that he's the owner, which I was assuming he was the owner.
Okay. And so you get into your truck, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And once you got into your truck, what were you gonna do?
I was gonna leave, and I burned out when I left.
Okay, when you say burned out, can you describe what that kind of sounds like?
Stepped on the gas, left because they were around me, and he gets around me, and as soon as I'm on my vehicle and I start heading out, they put me again at gunpoint.
Okay. Once you were driving off, what happened with the firearms?
They shot fire at me.
When you exited the location at Jules Volcano, where'd you go?
I just left and tried to get to the safe spot to file a report. I got on the highway and I saw that an Escalade vehicle was following me. And I tried to get away from it, took a turnaround.
Okay. I'm still a bit perplexed here. Now, I do know that testimony that isn't allowed in at trial can be used sometimes at sentencing. And it seems here like this entire situation with, oh, we just held them outside and and then boom, nothing. It seems like it was more like Oko Corral gunshot. What the actual fuck was going on at that club at that night? Jesus Christ.
Pulled over on the highway and made a police report.
Okay. And so when you left, correct me if I'm wrong, but Jules Volcano, the location is on Ingram Road, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the nearest highway to there is 410, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so when you leave the location, did you get on the highway 410?
No, when I leave the location, I left towards the back of the, towards where that entrance is. I headed directly to the back of it and I just looked for an exit. I didn't really know where I was going at the moment since the fire had just happened, like the shots had just happened. So I kind of just like stopped and tried to find a way out, and I saw my way out and I left, and then I saw the vehicle that was following.
Okay, and then at some point, did you end up on the highway?
Yes,
Okay, and was that 410?
410 south.
Okay, and then, and so this vehicle was following you on around 410, is that correct? Okay, and then do you exit to get on Highway 90 at some point?
Yes, I did. That's where I took the turnaround. I passed Highway 90, take the turnaround, get back to Highway 90 and follow my police.
And so approximately for how long was that black Escalade following you?
probably up until Highway 90 and until I took the turnaround. And as soon as I saw that I was already not there, I pulled over and my tire was also getting flat out because I had a bullet.
Um,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I got as far as I could.
Earlier you said that they shot at you. Who is they?
Mariano, 3, 4 other security guards. Sorry, I
Okay.
couldn't really tell how many people it was. I was just trying to get out.
And so do you recognize Mr. Mariano here in court today?
I did.
Would you please point to him and identify him by an article of clothing he's wearing?
He is wearing a light gray shirt, glasses.
So once you're on Highway 90, were you able to speak with, police on that day?
Yes.
Were you in possession of a firearm yourself on that day?
No, no,
Was there any firearms inside of your truck?
no.
I'm gonna show you what has been marked as these exhibits P6, P7, and P8. Do you recognize what these are?
Yes,
Okay, and have you viewed these discs before?
yes, sir.
Okay, and does each, um, does P6, P7, and P8 have your identifying mark on them?
Yes,
Did
as
you
far as the
initial-
the videos, the discs, yes, ma'am.
Did you initial them when you watched them earlier today?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and when you watched states exhibits P6, P7, and P8, were they a fair and accurate depiction of the events as they occurred on the offense field?
Yes, ma'am.
And to your knowledge, except to comply with legal rules, have they been altered in any way?
No,
At this time, the state offers states P6 through P8 inclusive.
No objection, Your Honor. Those are things we consider. Yes.
States Exhibit P6, P7, and P8 are admitted without objection.
Permission to publish. Your-
Granted.
Yeah, again, Judge Boyd's Zoom feed does not show the court screen. So whatever they are looking at, we can see it.
Mr. Ventura, do you recognize yourself in this video?
yes, I am the person in the white shoes right there for the message.
Okay. So for the record, that was James at P6. Mr. Ventura, when you were leaving the location, were you trying to run over the defendant?
No, I was not. I just stepped on the vehicle. If he was in front of me or not, I honestly wasn't paying attention. Like I said, I was looking for the exit and trying to get out of there in fear for my life
And why were you in fear for your life?
because I had been shot at multiple times.
At this time, I'll be publishing states exhibit P7.
Is that you, depicted in State's Exhibit P7?
Is that me? Yes, ma'am.
Shut the fuck up and leave. Get the fuck out of here. We don't do this trash shit. And don't get stupid either. I don't fuck around. Don't fuck around.
Let's just say that this so far the sentencing phase of the trial is kind of more interesting than the trial was.
And so is that your vehicle that we see heading, straight and then taking a left to exit the location?
Yes, ma'am.
Did your vehicle have any defects from, the gunshots?
Yes, it did. The vehicle, I actually don't have it at the moment.
Okay.
The vehicle's parts, it's hard to get, so I haven't had a vehicle since that day.
And that's back in 2023
Yes, ma'am.
on publishing State's Exhibit P8. Can you explain to the jury what that is?
Those are gunshots from Mr. Mariano.
And is that on the front driver's side of the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that the inside of your vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's just say that the Blue Lagoon or Blue Volcano or Wild Volcano, whatever the bar's name was,
Do you see more?
family
gunshots
friendly. I wouldn't describe
Is
it
this
as.
on the passenger side of your vehicle?
Yes.
Is that a gunshot defect on your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
And again,
Yes.
is that the front of your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Explain what happened to the tire on your truck.
Had a bullet hole in it.
Is that the trunk of your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
And do we see multiple local defects in the back?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that another, defect inside of the car?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that a gunshot defect on the, or the back side on the driver's side?
Yes, ma'am.
We pass the witness, sir.
All right, defense.
Good morning, sir. My name is Larry Bloomquist. I represent Mariano Randone. You and I have never spoken before this, is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I want to talk about it. So when you were leaving the club, you were angry. Is that fair to say you were angry that you got ejected?
I was bothered, not angry. I mean, yes, upset.
And you exchanged words with the security officers. We see you on the video kind of pointing your hand like that. And that's you exchanging words with the security officers. Is that correct?
Correct.
And when you actually get in your vehicle, you actually pull out of the parking space very abruptly. Isn't that fair to say?
Correct. I left.
Can we? The truck is pointing out.
Yeah, defense attorney, you are running uphill with this one.
This is where you're exchanging out. Okay, and this is where you're exchanging out words with the officer and you're actually gesturing to the security officer, correct?
Yes.
Isn't it true that at this time you had already threatened the police officers
No,
or the security officers?
that is not true.
Don't get stupid either. I'm gonna fuck around.
Well,
Fuck around.
Okay, and before anybody draws their gun, we hear your car already revving up, correct?
No.
We just heard it. Let's listen to it again. We're gonna hear your car rev up before any guns come out.
Okay.
I've only been thrown out of a bar twice in my life. And I deserved it. And I went home. Well, once I went directly home. The other time I went to the bar next door.
You don't hear your car revving before the guns come out?
Yes, sir. But then I see the vehicle stop and then I hear the guy say, come on with his gun out. And then I take off.
But the thing that triggers them to draw the guns is when you first rev your engine, isn't that correct?
My engine has to turn on to take off.
And you'll agree with me that you leave at a high rate of speed.
Yes, I was in fear for my life.
Would you agree with me that a vehicle traveling at that speed in a small parking lot is a concern for others for their safety? You agree with that?
I would disagree due to the fact that they were pointing at me at gunpoint and they kept shooting as I was taking off.
I must say I want to see that trial instead.
Exhibit P6. Okay, and here, this person that we see in front of your vehicle is Mariano Rendon, isn't that correct? The person standing near the traffic cone, just to the right of the traffic cone.
That is correct.
And he's in front of your vehicle as you're leaving at a very high rate of speed, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
All right, state, any questions?
Just briefly, the truck that you were driving on that day is a Shelby. Can you explain to the jury what that is?
It's a specialty truck, specialty vehicle. That's the best way I can describe it.
Does it have like a special package with like a special engine?
It's not a Shelby package, it's a supercharged vehicle.
And isn't it true that the suspects and the defendant continued to shoot at you even when you were completely exited from the parking lot? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
We have the witness here.
I'm done for the witness.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Excused by the state.
Excused by the defense. Your Honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. That means you're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for the state of the defense. Do you understand? All right, if you'll remove the microphone and you may step down. Thank you. State, call your next witness. Thank you.
The state rests, Your Honor.
All right,
Your Honor, may we have a brief break so I can get my witnesses available?
yes. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you all a 15-minute break. Remember my previous instructions. Everyone, please rise for the jurors. Defense, do you have any opening statements?
I do briefly, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
May it please the court, counsel. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, first of all, I want to tell you we respect your verdict and we appreciate that. What we're going to do is be calling several witnesses to the stand to talk about what kind of a man Mariano Randone is, things that we think that are relevant to your decision and the punishment of this case. Normally we call 2 or 3 and we go into a fair amount of detail, but in this particular case, we're going to call many people and they're going to be rather brief. But what we're trying to do is because we don't want to waste your time. We want to give you a snapshot of who Mariano Randone is. So we're going to call several people. They're going to talk about their experiences with them. And rather than going in depth with each one of them, I want to go into a little bit of just so you can see the broadness of the scope of the impact that he has on our community. And so there will be many witnesses, but they'll be rather brief. We won't waste your time. I can promise you that. Thank you very much.
All right, defense, call your first witness.
Your Honor, at this time, we're going to call Sarah Mitchell.
If you'll take the stand here, please. And if you'll put that square microphone that's up there, just somewhere on your top. Can you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Sarah Mitchell?
Sarah, did you work at Joe's Volcano or El Volcan?
Yes, sir.
What was your job at El Volcan?
I was the ID girl.
Okay, so what is an ID girl? It sounds self-explanatory, but tell me what's your
I
job.
would check the IDs and make sure that there was no minors coming into the building, and
You have to speak up a little bit, and if you can speak into the microphone, it'll help a lot. Maybe just pull that closer to you a little bit.
I would
There-
check the IDs to make sure that there was no minors coming in.
Okay. And how long did you work there?
About 2.5, 3 years.
And what kind of boss did you call him Mariano or did you call him JR?
I would call him Dad.
Dad, okay. Why did you call him Dad?
Because he's like a dad figure to me.
Okay. And I want to talk about the night that there was the shooting at the club where there was the security guard shot at the truck. Were you there that night?
Yes, sir, I was.
And were you there in the video that we see at the door?
Yes, sir.
And that's where you were taking IDs?
Yes, sir.
And did you get a chance to observe what happened that evening?
Yes, sir.
And specifically, when you saw Mariano in relationship to the truck, when the truck pulled out, did that draw your attention when the truck pulled out?
Yes, I looked like the truck was gonna hit him.
Okay. And you believed he was going to be hit?
Yes,
And how close did the vehicle pass to him?
he got very close to him.
And at some point, I think you told me that you saw him jump out of the way of the vehicle?
It looked like he jumped, like he was scared.
Okay. And did you think he was going to be killed?
I thought he was.
And how did that impact you?
It scared me.
And Mariano has helped you personally during like a difficult time in your life. Can you describe that for the jury?
I was in a domestic violence case, and he's helped me get through that, and he still is always there for me.
Okay. So you were like a victim in a domestic violence case,
Mhm.
and then you decided to leave the person that was abusing you.
Yes,
And how did Mariano help you during that time?
he's always been there, and he's always had his doors open. Whenever I needed something, he's always there.
Okay, so he gave you a lot of emotional support during that time. And did you talk to you about what happened with him?
Yes, he's always told me, "You'll be safe. You're okay."
And that helped you to make that decision to leave?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
State.
Miss Mitchell, you said you were employed at Volcan for how long? 2.5, almost 3 years.
Okay. Do you still currently work there?
I do.
Okay, what do you do now?
I'm a caseworker for the state.
A what?
A caseworker for the state?
Okay, for CPS or?
No, dad's pretty much the community care attendants.
And so during your time at Volcan, you said that you were a door girl. Was that the entire time?
Yes.
Okay. And when people would attend Volcan, I mean, usually it's a club, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
And they play music there, correct?
Yes.
And most people go there to drink and have a good time, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
In your experience working the door, would you just monitor the people going in or coming out as well?
A little bit of both.
Okay. And I guess, is it kind of common for people to get intoxicated and kind of start to act rambunctious there at the club?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. It's an occurrence that happens
Every once in a while.
every once in a while. Okay.
Everyone's pretty good there, and there's not really any issues.
Okay. But it sounds like the defendant, you had a close relationship, is that correct?
Yes.
And you would see him outside of work, is that fair to say? And it sounds like he helped you through a tough time. I'm glad that you've been able to move on from that period of your life. but he helped you, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so it's fair to say, you know, you care about him a great deal, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you don't want to see anything bad happen to him, correct? But do you believe that people should be held accountable for their actions?
Yes, ma'am.
We pass the witness here.
I have nothing for this witness.
All right, is this witness excused?
Yes,
Yes.
from the defense.
All right, if you'll remove the microphone, the rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for the state or the defense. All right, you may step down. Defense, call your next witness.
Oh, Esther Lucero.
Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you can lower your hand. There's a square microphone up there. If you'll make sure you place that somewhere in your top where the court reporter can hear. And if you'll keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear. If you'll state your name for the record, please.
Esther Rubio.
All right, you may proceed.
And can you tell me, Esther, can you tell me how you got to know, do you go call him Mariano or you call him JD or JR?
I call him JR.
Okay, how did you get to know JR?
He's the grandfather to my cousin's kids. So that was back in 2021. And then a little after that, I started working for him.
What'd you do at the club?
At the time, I was a porter.
And then I want to talk to you, at some point you told me that JR helped you get through like a really difficult time in your life. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, there was times, it's been multiple times, but one of the first ones, we really didn't have enough money. It was towards Christmas time. We didn't have enough for presents or bills at the time. And JR offered, or he didn't even offer, he just did it, to be honest. Just got us groceries for the house and stuff around the house.
Was that very helpful to your family at that time?
Yes.
And he would just find out maybe through.
Yeah, he would hear it from either my cousins or her boyfriend, which is his son.
Yeah. And then he would just, of his own will, try to help you out.
Just out of the kindness of his heart.
Was there another time, like when your brother was in college, he was helping you out?
Yeah, a little before that, my brother was in college, so he was really struggling to be in dorm and still get everything done and have stuff for himself. So he would help out with that too. And then like buy bulk stuff, like for, hygiene stuff, whatever we needed.
Mhm. Just constantly looking out for your family.
Yes.
And I mean, how do you feel towards him? I mean, you said that obviously I'm sure you're grateful, but I mean, how do you feel about what kind of a man he is in the community?
I see him as a hardworking man. He's always caring. He's always giving back. He never expects nothing in return. He believes that what you give out is what you get back. So he always does his best to give as much as he could to everybody.
And do you feel like that's been a good example, seeing somebody doing those kind of kind things?
Yes, of course. I always want to give back to the community or like see people on the street. You want to help them out because that's what I've always seen him do.
I think that's all I have.
Oh, just one moment.
Yeah, she's got some questions.
State.
Yes. Is it Ms. Rubio?
Yes.
You stated that the defendant is the grandfather to your cousin's children, is that correct?
Yes.
So if you could help me walk through that. So your cousin is in a relationship with the defendant's son, is that correct?
Yes.
Which son would that be?
Matthew Randone.
Okay. And what is your cousin's name?
Alexis. Lucero.
Alexis Lucero?
Yes.
Does she work at the club as well or
Yes.
no? Okay. And so you said you were employed at the club as well, correct?
Yes.
For about how long did you do that?
For about 3 years.
Okay, do you still currently work there?
Yes.
Okay. And have you viewed any evidence in this case at all?
No.
Okay. But it sounds like the defendant, he's pretty special to you. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
He helped you through some rough times, is that correct?
Yes.
And so you wouldn't want to see anything bad happen to him, correct?
No.
But do you believe that people should be held accountable for their actions?
Yes.
We possibly, oh, well, Judge, if I could approach it.
Yes. Maybe see it. I don't know, I see the fence. Could you all approach just briefly? You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Rubio, were you aware that the defendant had prior, criminal convictions in his record?
No,
And would you knowing that he has prior criminal convictions change your opinion on him being a good example in the community?
no.
You pass the witness, sir.
This witness may be excused, Your Honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. That means you're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state or the defense. Do you understand? All right, if you'll remove the microphone and you may step down. In defense, you may call your next witness.
Your Honor, we'll call Frank Santiago.
All right, please have a seat here. Okay, if you can raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand, have a seat. Make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear. And there's a square microphone up there if you put it on your shirt. All right, if you state your name for the record.
Frank de Santiago,
Frank, how did you know him by Mariano or JR?
JR.
How did you get to know JR?
I've known JR in the industry that I'm in, entertainment. I've known him for close to 20 years.
Okay. And you're a DJ, is that correct?
DJ, MC,
How long have you been how long you been doing that for 20 years?
oh, a long time, 36 years.
Okay, 36 years. And did you often DJ at El Volcan?
Yes.
And describe that for me. How would that work?
How it worked was, I would show up around 8, do my first set at 9 and close the club. I perform mixing services, MC. If there was a dance contest or such, I would execute that and just basically entertain.
And what kind of guy was JR?
A good man.
Why do you say that?
I say that because, he has a huge passion, not only for nightlife, the music industry, which in my genre is Tano. He's a huge fan. And again, all he wanted was to bring to light, again, a format, which is Tano, to the forefront.
Yeah.
He was one of the very few that did.
And was safety at the club a big concern for him?
Extremely important.
And why is that?
The reason was he wanted to develop an atmosphere that was not only safe for clients, it was basically creating a family-like atmosphere. A place like, like Cheers.
Yeah.
It's a place where everyone knows everyone's name.
And how did he treat the other people that worked there? Did you see him? How did he treat those folks?
Oh, he loved them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what makes you say that he loved them?
Oh, because he was very attentive. If there was a problem, he found a way to solve it. At times, help out. He was very hands-on, and he was, he's a great leader, from what I assess.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. De Santiago, you stated that you would DJ at Volcan, is that correct? Were you there like every weekend or occasionally? How would that work?
It would be not like every weekend. It would be like when there was a period where like a whole year I was booked there on the constant. Then there's other times where he would want to freshen up the DJs and what have you.
Okay, but you were a reoccurring talent there, is
Yes.
that correct? Okay. Do you still currently DJ at Volcon?
I know.
Okay, do you have any upcoming sets that are gonna occur there in the future?
Well, if he does, he'll get a hold of me.
Okay. So you guys have a good business working relationship with each other, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
It kind of evolved to more, is that correct? More like friends?
Yes, I consider him like a brother.
Okay. And you said you've known him for how long?
Close to 20 years. I mean,
And when you were DJing there, would you receive financial compensation for that?
for services provided, yes.
Okay. Now, you stated that the defendant was a good man. Were you aware that he had prior criminal convictions on his record?
No.
Would that change your opinion at all?
No.
We pass the witness, Madam.
I have nothing further. I'd ask that you be excused.
All right. The rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state of the defense. If you'll remove the microphone and you may step down, and defense, you may call your next witness.
Hey, Judge, on the witnesses that are excused, is there any opposition to the court for outlining them to be in the courtroom?
No objection.
All right.
John, I'll call our next witness. Our next witness is going to be Norma Galvan.
Right, if you can raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand if you'll take the square microphone and place it somewhere on your shirt for the court reporter can hear. If you'll keep your voice up so that the members of the jury can hear, and if you'll state your name for the record, please.
Can you hear me? Yes. Norma Galvan is my name.
And Norma, did you know him as JR?
Yes, I do.
How did you get to know JR?
My husband and I, we run a ministry, and we've known him over 20 years. And he's just been a faithful partner into the ministry.
Okay. And does he pray with you and
Yes, he does. Yes, definitely. He is very much a giving person, and he has been a friend and also a faithful partner as well to our ministry. And anytime we've had any problems, as we all do, he always has been there, and his wife have been there for us as we have been there for them as well.
and JR
Spiritually.
JR and Esmeralda describe you as a prayer warrior for them. Can you describe that? What is that?
Yes, of course, in time of need, we always, whether it's financial, physical, health, in any way, we're there. You know, we believe the power of prayer, and we're faithful Christians.
And Mariano has actually donated a lot of his time and then different things to the ministry. Can you describe that?
Yes, I know we do. They host an event called Tamales en el Barrio, which pretty much we collect thousands of, this is during Christmas time, so we collect thousands of toys that we get distributed to children with cancer and a lot of the local San Antonio hospitals, and then in Houston as well.
And how does JR help out with that?
Oh, he just provided the services as far as at the facility, and just get everyone in the community.
And I think you mentioned that he donated toys and things like that as well, and other things to the ministry over the years.
Yes, that's correct.
Like what kind of things would he donate to the ministry?
Just the toys, and just have made a difference in a lot of families financially, because those get distributed to families that just are in time of need, or they've been restored, and just children, especially the ones that we've had during Christmas, where we donate when we collect monies and toys for them.
And has he ever asked anything in return other than your prayers and friendship?
No, not at all.
I'll pass this.
Any questions?
Ms. Galvan, you said you and your husband run a ministry, is that correct?
That's correct.
So are you like a pastor's wife or?
We're more like spiritual guidance. I know it's called All Around SA, and we just cater. We seek. We look and just if anybody's in need of any, whether more mainly children. So that's how we.
Okay. So it's not like a church facility?
No, it's not. No, it's just a
Okay.
ministry. No, just like a nonprofit organization.
Oh,
Mhm.
all right. Thank you,
Yes.
because
That's correct. Mhm.
And so I guess JR, you said that he's helped fund your ministry in various
Yes.
ways, is that correct?
That's correct.
And I guess since it's a nonprofit, your ministry kind of relies on donations, is that?
That's correct. Yeah.
And so since you've known the defendant for a long time, sounds like you're fairly close with him, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and you care for him a great deal, is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
wouldn't want to see anything bad happen to him, right?
Absolutely.
Have you viewed any evidence in this case at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And I guess, were you aware that the defendant has prior criminal convictions on his record?
I'm not one. I mean, I don't know the whole background as far as more personal, just more the spiritual side.
Okay.
As a family, and just him being such a given person, and has always been there for us, my husband and I.
Okay, so having knowledge of those previous criminal convictions, that wouldn't change your opinion at all?
Absolutely not. No, he's he's just a very kind and very generous person. I would have never, and to this day, I don't know. I mean, even though I've known him this long, I just know that he has a good heart, for sure.
Thank you. We pass the witness now.
We may excuse the witness, Your Honor.
All right. The rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone other than attorneys for the state of the defense. If you'll remove the microphone, please, and you may step down. Defense, call your next witness.
At this time, we'll call Janelle Perez. Judge.
Hey, if you can raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can lower your hand, have a seat. Make sure you put the microphone on your shirt somewhere. And keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear. If you could state your name for the record.
It's Janelle Pettis.
All right, defense, you may proceed.
Janelle, how did you get to know? Did you know him as JR, or how did you address him?
I call him JR.
And so, how did you get to know JR?
I'm currently dating his daughter.
Okay. And at some point, you were working also, or you're working at El Volcan, or we're working at El Volcan.
Yes, I was working there.
What was your job?
I was the front cashier until probably the closing. I was a security guard.
Okay. And then And then up until the club closed, you were working as a security guard. About how long were you a security guard?
About 2 months,
And how long did you work at the club all together?
about 7 years.
And what kind of man was JR?
He's a very kind-hearted man. You know, when you walk in, you could just feel the vibe of him.
And I think you told me that you almost looked at him like kind of a surrogate father, like a father figure to you.
Yes, sir.
Can you describe that?
Well, growing up, my father kind of abandoned my family, and getting introduced to him, he kind of, he took that wing over.
Mm-hmm. And did he make you feel loved and well thought of?
Yes, sir.
And you said when we were talking earlier, you told me that you feel like he taught you some of the things that a father should teach a child. Can you describe that?
Of course, he's a man of trades, so every time I see him working on the house or like doing yard work or anything anything that we should know as persons, I kind of lacked of because I didn't have, my mom wasn't there much and my dad wasn't, and he shared his knowledge and his wisdom with me in ways I can't even describe.
And did you see him reaching out to try to help other people in the community?
Nonstop.
Yeah. And describe that for us.
Well, at the club, he did Toys for Tots. He would, reach out to customers in need. And, if they were struggling with bills or if they had personal issues, he would always lend a hand. Always. He never asked for anything in return from anybody besides just enjoy themselves in life.
Okay, I'll pass it.
All right, state.
So you stated you worked at Volcom for 7 years, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and towards the end, you were employed as a security guard, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you still currently employed with Volcom or the security company?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Okay, and so which one are you employed with, Volcom or the security company or both?
Both.
Okay, and so the security company, that's Grunt Security, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And that is owned by the defendant's wife, Esmeralda Randone, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and so with that security company, I guess the primary purpose of it is to provide security at Volcom, is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
And there's been previous testimony that the defendant, he treats their employees very well. Is that something that you would agree with?
I definitely do. Even you can ask multiple people there, they know him because he's so kind-hearted to them. Like there's never a time where he's not being a friendly face to anybody.
Would it surprise you, or have you heard that some people that previously worked for the company described that JR would contact them during their work shifts?
No, ma'am. I don't see that at all.
Were you aware that the defendant had previous criminal convictions on his record?
No, ma'am.
Would that change your opinion about him at all?
Definitely not.
And it sounds like he's played a very big role in your life. Is that fair to say?
I would agree, yes.
Okay, you care for him a great deal. He's kind of like a father figure to you, but definitely kind of like an in-law, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm very blessed to call him my father-in-law.
And so, I mean, given your relationship with that, you wouldn't want to see anything bad happen to him, correct?
Of course.
Okay, but have you viewed any of the evidence in any of these cases?
No.
Okay. And do you believe that people need to be held accountable for their actions?
Yes.
We have to learn discernment.
I have nothing further. I'd ask the witness be excused.
All right, if you'll remove the microphone. The rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state of the defense. You may step down.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time the defense will call Linda Randone. I'll retrieve her.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
If you'll put that square little microphone on your top, please. Can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so members of the jury can hear. If you'll state your name for the record.
Linda Randone,
And Linda, how do you know Mariano Rendon?
he's my dad.
And let's talk about that. So what kind of dad was he? I know it's hard. Do you need a Kleenex or anything?
Okay. He's been an amazing father.
Okay, and then I know it's really tough. But give me an example of like some of the things that he would do that made you believe he was an amazing father.
He's never left my side at all. I do hold it against him that he wasn't there the 10 minutes I was born because he was in military duty. So I hold that against him. But other than that, he's been an amazing father.
Okay.
I went through a very traumatic miscarriage about 9 years ago. And as soon as it happened, I called him and he was on my doorstep within 4 minutes.
Mhm.
You know, I have 3 children, 11, 8, and a 1-year-old. And each of those births, he was there in the hospital with me.
And then like you have your middle child. Is it your middle child that has autism?
My middle child has autism, and my dad likes to call him his little Hulk.
And does he
He-
have a really good relationship with
Yes,
that
they
child?
do. He's able to calm him down. He's able to just get him back into the space he needs to be when he's lashing out. He loves his grandpa. All 3 of my kids love their grandpa. He's an amazing grandfather to them.
And you've had a chance to see your dad, like how he treats people in the community as well, besides I mean, obviously he's good to his personal family, but you've had a chance to see him be like helping other people. Can you
Yes.
describe that?
He gets calls sometimes that, oh, you know what, my electricity is gonna get cut off. Can you help out? And without a doubt, he helps. They recently, I don't remember when, they were in Midland, Texas, dealing with the water issue over there. And there was 2 families in front of them that their water was getting cut off. And without a hesitation, they paid for their water to get turned back on. And he's always doing stuff. He's always helping out.
So let me just make sure I'm clear. So he goes to people that are in the community, like maybe friends or people that have come to the club or
Mhm.
people that he knows, and he finds out that they're in
If they're in
financial
need,
distress, and he
yes.
goes and just pays their bills.
He'll
so they
help
can
out,
keep
yes.
on their
He'll
power.
either give them the cash. I think my mom's even called CPS before. Or he'll write them a check, or he'll cash app them, whatever it is to help them out.
I've heard,
Just
I don't know if it was you that I spoke to, but I heard about him doing plumbing for people that have problems.
yes, if you have any type of issue with your plumbing and you need a hand, he'll help you right then and there. He doesn't hesitate to do anything for anybody.
And when he's doing these things, is he looking for any kind of like
Absolutely
payback or anything like
Absolutely
that?
not. Never.
Just things that he's doing out of the goodness of
Yes.
his heart.
Yes.
And what kind of an example has that been for you as a human being?
An amazing example. I mean, growing up, him and my mom always supplied a house for my grandfather. No bills. He didn't have to pay rent. He didn't have to pay bills. They gave him that house to live in. And me learning from that, I am doing that for my mother-in-law now, where she doesn't have to pay any bills at her house she's in. She doesn't pay rent. So it's just something that is passed down to me from them, from what I've learned from them. You know, at grocery stores, he has a sweet tooth, so he'll go to the grocery store by himself and buy his groceries, and he'll pay for the people in front of him without knowing their story, without knowing absolutely anything. They could have all the money in the world, but he'll do it out of the kindness of his heart. Whether it's an $80 bill or a $600 bill, he doesn't care.
I'll pass the witness.
Right, state.
Ms. Rendon,
Did you grow up here or in Midland or both?
Both.
Okay, and so, do you recall about what year you moved here to San Antonio?
In 2006.
Okay. And so you lived with your parents previously in Midland?
Yes.
Is that correct? And you guys still have ties there and go back and visit? Is that correct?
Yes, we still have family there.
Now, I can't remember if Mr. Bloom was asking, but are you employed with Uncle Gum?
Yes, I am.
Okay, about how long have you been working there?
Been there since, well, we're no longer at the location we were at, but since 2017 March.
And I guess currently you guys have moved to a new location, is that correct?
Yes, just for Saturday, that's it.
Okay. And so, being employed with there, I mean, it's kind of like a family business, is that fair to
Yes.
say? So you're employed there, I guess your mom and your father are the owners of the company, is that correct?
Yes.
And then you also have some siblings that work there, is that correct?
Yes.
And who are your siblings?
Matthew and Brendan. And then I also have my sister-in-laws there, their family members. So it's just all family.
And I guess when your parents opened the business back in 2017, you already had some children, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was
You already had 2 children at the time?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And so when being able to be employed in the business, in your parents' business, that afforded you some freedom with your kids, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I did go to school and I had my bachelor's degree. But I saw the opportunity to be with them and be with my children more, especially my middle child, because he needed me more hands-on.
Right.
I took it.
Okay. And I guess that because the hours are more flexible than if
Yes.
you would be employed in your degree, is that
Yes.
fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I guess, were you aware that your father had some previous criminal convictions on his record?
No.
Okay. And I wanted to talk to you kind of about the offenses that we're here for today, because you were present at the location for both nights, is that correct?
Yes, I was present.
But you didn't actually observe what happened, just kind of the aftermath? is
No,
that
I
correct?
was in the office because I was pregnant.
Okay, and so that's kind of the scope of your duties, is that fair to say that you would stay in the office for
Yes.
the most part? Okay, but, so you have you viewed any evidence in the case or no?
No,
Okay.
I tried to stay as away from that as possible.
That's fair.
The only thing I've seen was the video that went around on Facebook. That was it.
Okay. And it sounds like you love your father a great deal.
Yes,
is
I
that
do.
fair to say? Yeah, I know this is hard for you. But do you believe that people need to be held accountable for their actions?
I do, but it depends on the circumstances of the case. I mean, I can't just sit here and say yes or no, because it could be, something gone wrong for helping somebody else. So it depends on everything.
We pass the witness, Your Honor.
I have nothing further. I'd ask the witness be excused.
All right, if you'll remove the microphone, please. The rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state of the defense. You may step down. Call your next witness.
Judge, I have a witness, Carolyn Tillman. I'm gonna call her to stand, but if I can have just a moment, it's
Sure.
just very, very quickly.
No problem. If you'll take a seat here, please. A seat here. And if you'll raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, you may have a seat. There's a square microphone up there. If you'll put it somewhere on your blouse, please. And just make sure that you speak up so that members of the jury can hear.
Okay.
All right, if you'll state your name for the record.
Carolyn Bolden Tillman.
All right, defense.
Carolyn, how do you know JR?
I met JR some years ago. I own a business in the same area that he owned a business.
What business do you own? What's the name of your business?
Carolyn's Hair Salon.
Okay, I'm assuming that you're a hairdresser?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and describe how you got to know him.
I got to know JR when I lost my husband. I am now a widow. JR has always looked out for me. He comes over and helped me fix stuff and just take care of me. He watched over me. He watched over my business. You know, they have their cameras to where they could see me at night leaving, or, you know, he's very supportive. I hurt my back. JR went and got me some equipment to get my back working. I mean, he's very, very caring. Comes over, changes my filters in my shop, and they take me out to eat. They've taken me out of town. You know, he's just a very loving man, very loving man. He talks of God all the time. And, you know, he's just so kind. He's very kind.
The things that he does for you, is he ever looking for you to pay him back or remunerate him in any way?
He will not let me give him a penny. I offer, he's taken me with them to special trips to Vegas. He tells me, you better not pull out, not even a card, not even a penny. This is on us. This is on me. He's so kind. He is very kind.
Like when he comes over to like replace the filters in your shop or things like that, he's just doing that from the goodness of his
He
heart.
just does it from the kindness of his heart. If I see him outside standing in front of his business, he'll come over and give me a big hug and say, hey, how you doing? Everything okay? You need anything? He's very kind. I've never seen a bad side of him. He's a good man. He
And
really
you think
is.
that I'll pass the witness at this time.
All right.
Ms. Tolman, I want to give you my sympathy for the loss of your husband. I guess since you operate a hair salon, you're mostly open during the day, is that correct?
I'm there during the day. I'm there in the evening. Sometimes I don't leave my salon until 8, 9 o'clock at night.
But you're not familiar with what goes on inside of Volcom, is that fair to say?
I go inside and speak to them at night. Sometimes I'll walk over there before I leave the shop to let them know I'm leaving. You know, I've sit there and had a cocktail, you know, after getting off work. So I do go inside. I've never seen anything out of hand or.
Okay. And have you viewed any of the evidence in this case?
Excuse me?
Have you reviewed any of the evidence in the case that we're here for today?
I just believe that JR, if something took place, he's trying to protect the family or, you know, to keep the safety there. I've never experienced any danger there, any fighting, or he stops it before it starts, you know, so I just feel that he's just protecting the people in his business, you know, and his family.
So we have video evidence in this case. My question was, have you reviewed the video evidence in this case?
Okay, where's the video? I don't.
It's not playing right now. Have you previously reviewed it?
I haven't seen any video.
Okay, and so you're just testifying based on what you know
On
with
his-
JR
yeah.
and
Yeah.
your experience with
Yeah.
him, is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, and so it sounds like he's pretty special to you, is that fair to say?
Yes, he is.
Okay, but do you believe that people should be held accountable for their actions?
Yes, people should be held accountable.
If there's, cause, yes.
All right. We have the witness, Your Honor.
We'd ask that this witness be excused, Your Honor.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state of the defense. May remove the microphone and step down. All right, defense, call your next witness.
Defense will call Alexis Lucero to the stand. And I'll just need another additional second.
Okay. All right, if you put the square microphone on your shirt somewhere, please. And if you raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so members of the jury can hear. If you can state your name for the record, please.
Alexis Lucero.
Right.
Alexis, how do you know JR?
He's my father-in-law.
And you're married to his son, is that correct?
Yes.
What's your husband's name?
Matthew Randone.
And what kind of man is your father-in-law?
A hardworking, honest man.
Have you ever worked at the club?
Yes.
What did you do at the club?
So in the beginning, I was working the front. I would put wristbands on people, sometimes help with the register. And after that, I became a bartender.
And did he take the safety of the people at the club very seriously?
Very seriously,
And why was that?
because he treated everyone like family.
And with your father-in-law, was there a time like before you got married with you and your mom where he did something special to help you guys out?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe that?
So I met his son in 2016, and beginning of 2017, me and my mom, we really didn't have like money for food and stuff. Sorry. And barely even knowing us, he went out his way, no questions asked, to provide food for us. And my mom was in shock. We never had anyone do that.
I think you said he bought you over $2,000 for the groceries.
Yeah.
And it was at a time you really needed it.
Mm-hmm.
And how did your mom take that?
She was very grateful. My mom's a Christian woman, and she just thought it was a blessing from God.
And how does he treat you as his daughter-in-law?
Great. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I never had my father, in my life, and so I never really knew what it was like to have dad. And so there's times where me and him bumped heads a lot, but he's like, this is a father. This is what,
So you actually
And-
see him as a father figure?
Yeah. Mhm.
And then you've had a couple panic attacks. Can you describe what's going on with the panic attack?
Yeah, so I have really bad social anxiety. It's actually happening right now. But when I would work there, I had 2 very bad panic attacks to the point where I passed out, and for some reason I hold my breath and I couldn't breathe. So instead of waiting for the ambulance
to come. He rushed me to the hospital and got me there safe and sound within 5 minutes.
And you saw him also helping other people in the community besides your family, that he would reach out to help other people?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe that?
I mean, he's helped my cousins. You know, he's helped other people too, even people that are customers that go to the club, that go to the Volcan.
And how does he help them out?
He literally, and no questions asked. They need something, he's on it. They need help with bills or anything. He's just there for them.
And I'll pass the witness.
All right, state.
Ms. Suzanne, you said that you're in a relationship with Matthew Randone, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you work there at the club, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And Matthew is employed as a security guard at the club, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And so Matthew, he's actually involved in the shooting, is that correct?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And he was charged for that as well?
Yes.
And so it sounds like you love your father-in-law a great deal, is that fair to say?
Sorry, what?
You love your father-in-law a great deal, he's been there for you through some hard times, is that correct?
Yes.
And I mean, we wouldn't want to see anything bad happen to him, right? Do you believe that people should be held accountable for their actions?
Yeah, people should be held.
Thank you. We've not voted.
I have nothing further. I'd ask that you be excused.
All right, if you'll remove the microphone, please. The rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state or the defense. You may step down. Thank you. Defense, call your next witness.
We'll call Esmeralda Randone to the stand.
All right, if you put the microphone somewhere on your blouse, please. Can you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. All right, you can put your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury can hear. If you'll state your name for the record.
Esmeralda Randone.
Esmeralda, how did you end up meeting JR?
We met in high school. We're high school sweethearts.
Really? What high school did you go to?
Midland High
Mhm.
in Midland, Texas.
Okay. And what would you start dating in your junior year, senior year?
My senior year. We met in my senior year.
And then how soon after you got out of high school did you guys get married?
About 3 years later. We dated for a while and then we
And-
got married.
At some point, Mariano served in the Army, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Where was he stationed at?
Fort Benning, Georgia.
And were you there with him in Fort Benning?
Yes, sir. He left before we got married to basic training. Right before he was done with his basic training, we got married over the phone.
Okay. And then at some point when you, at some point while he was there at Fort Benning, was he involved in an accident?
Yes, sir.
And can you describe that accident for us?
It was a rope. He was doing some training or something. The rope broke and he fell on his head. He landed like a banana.
And how badly was he injured during that?
It was serious.
Okay.
It was serious. He no longer could do his duties, or he was in and out of the hospital, seeing the doctors, and finally, a few months later, his commander called him in and told him, you cannot do this anymore. So they didn't give him a choice but they used him, abused him, and just let him go.
And
like
then
that.
he was disabled by the military, is that
Yes.
correct?
This, it was an honorable discharge.
Yeah, honorable discharge, but for medical conditions, and then
Yes,
he,
sir.
he receives a disability check from the military for,
They didn't give him any medical.
okay.
He was getting like, I think it was like $57 when he got out.
Okay.
He went like that for 15 years. He suffered like that. He tried, he went to the VA, the local VA. They said, we can't do anything for you. He lived off a over-the-counter pain medication. He slept only because he took NyQuil. That was an everyday routine.
How many children do you have together?
We have 4.
Okay. And, just give me their names and their ages.
It's Mariano III. He's 32. Linda Rendone's 31. Brenda's 26. And our youngest Matthew, he's 24.
And then what kind of father was he to your children?
He was tough. He was tough on the kids. He loved them. He did anything for them. There was nothing that he wouldn't do for the kids. He was a military dad, you know, strict.
And he wanted his kids to grow up to be the best person they could be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Always strive for that.
As far as like Mariano in the community, I mean, has that been a big part of his life and your life, kind of help people in the community?
Yes, sir.
Describe that for me.
We're tithers. We're always tithing. We're always giving,
So
helping.
tithing means giving money to the church,
Yes, sir.
correct?
I tithe to church. I tithe to different outlets, different motivational speakers that I listen to. Joyce Myers.
And Mariano, we've heard a bunch of tales of him like helping people out, like financially or paying bills or
Yes, sir.
getting groceries. Can you describe that for us?
Yes, we've helped bill people with their utility bills, the groceries, the rent. He loves kids, so whenever he sees a kid at a store and there's JR giving or Mariano giving them money to buy whatever they want or buys them something.
You can call him JR. We all pretty much been calling him JR, so it's okay. And then as far as like, I mean, him helping people out is like, you know, doing plumbing or other odd jobs for people, and describe that for us.
Anytime somebody needs something, they're always calling on him. Whether it's our kids or neighbor or, can you help me move a tree? My plumbing's backed up. Whatever the need is, he's there. He's there to help.
And is he ever looking for any kind of like compensation or remuneration for making these efforts to help people?
No, sir. No.
Is there anything you'd like the jury to know before they assess punishment on JR?
I just ask you to please have leniency on him. He's a good dad. He's a wonderful grandpa. We have a grandson that has autism. I know. He can't be without his grandfather. We're a close knit. We're a close family, and my kids all depend on him. We all depend on him. He made a mistake. But he's not a violent person. He loves the community that we're in. He has a passion for making our business safe. When we took over that business, it was terrible. It was terrible. It was drug infested. It was bad people.
Excuse me, just, yes. All right, that will be sustained.
And finally, I mean, do you take solace in the fact that other people in the community care so much about him?
Yes, that's wonderful. That only shows what kind of person he is.
Right. I'll pass witness at this time.
All right, state.
Ms. Randone, I just have a couple of questions for you.
ma'am.
So are you the primary owner of Volcan, or are you, or you and your husband part owners?
I am.
Okay, so you're the primary owner, but as far as your licensing goes, y'all are both on the TABC, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you said you've owned the business since about 2017?
Correct.
Okay. And then, as part of Volcan, you also own the rent security company, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and, that security company, it was, I guess, headquartered, is it fair to say they're at Volcan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and the security company, the main purpose of it is to provide security for Volcan back then, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I guess back at the time in 2023, is it fair to say you guys employed about 8 employees,
Sounds about right.
give
Yeah.
or take? Okay. And I think back in that time, correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys were having kind of some issues with turnover of security employees.
Yes.
specifically.
Yes, that's correct. Uh-huh. There's always turnover on security, always.
Yeah, I'm sure in the nightclub too, right? Because it's just part of the lifestyle, is that fair to say?
Yes.
And so at the time, I guess the security company regarding the security guards, you guys would only provide the uniforms and the radios to them, is that correct?
Correct.
And everybody provided their own firearms that they would keep on.
That's
their
correct.
person. Okay. And so I think previously you stated that the main job of the security guards and the security company was to protect you guys and keep you guys safe, is that correct?
That's one of their duties, yes.
Okay. And I guess that would be kind of important to you, right? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but a majority of your family is employed there,
Correct.
right? Like your sons, some of your daughters, some of your, like son and daughter-in-laws, is that fair to say?
Correct.
And then extended family, right?
Yes.
So you guys have kind of built like a family business at the time, is that fair to say?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now I wanted to talk to you about, your husband's, prior criminal history. Were you aware that he had any previous, criminal convictions on his record?
Yes.
And so, it's 2, correct? 2 prior convictions?
Yes.
And those were from Young time in Midland, Texas,
Yes.
is that correct? And that occurred back in 2003?
Yes.
Okay. And I guess the offenses that he was convicted of was 1, disorderly conduct, discharging or displaying a firearm, is that correct?
Correct.
And then the other charge was cruelty to animals, is that
Correct.
correct? We have to let him.
And on those, he did a very short probation, is that correct?
It was deferred probation.
And he was on for like 6 months.
It was very short.
I'll pass the witness. I have nothing.
No further questions.
All
You
right.
would ask, she be excused.
If you'll remove the microphone, please. The rule has been invoked. You're not allowed to discuss your testimony with anyone except for attorneys for the state of the defense. You may step down.
Thank you.
Defense, call your next witness.
Your Honor, this time the defense is going to rest.
State.
The state closes, Your Honor.
Rest and close.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to send you back to the jury room briefly. Remember my previous instructions. And then each party, when I bring you back, they'll have a chance to give closing arguments to you. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. Right, everyone, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've heard all of the evidence that you're going to hear in this case. I'm going to read to you the jury charge for this specific phase of the trial. Members of the jury, by your verdict returned in this case, you have found the defendant, Mariano D. Randone, guilty of the offense of aggravated assault. It is necessary that the jury assess the punishment for this offense. You are instructed that the punishment for aggravated assault is confinement in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice Institutional Division for any term of not more than 20 years or less than 2 years. Therefore, you will assess the punishment of the defendant for any term of not more than 20 years or less than 2 years. In addition to imprisonment, an individual found guilty of the offense of aggravated assault may be punished by a fine not to exceed $10,000 And if you choose to assess a fine in addition to imprisonment, you will assess such fine and so state in your verdict. If you assess a fine, it is not paid to the victim or victims, if any, but is paid into the registry of the court. The defendant in this case has applied on written sworn motion for community supervision, stating among other things that he has never been convicted of a felony in this or any other state. Our statutes provide that where a defendant is found guilty of the offense of aggravated assault and the jury assesses the punishment at not more than 10 years, and they further find that the defendant has never been convicted of a felony in this or any other state, the jury may, within its discretion, recommend community supervision during the good behavior of the defendant. Whether you do or do not recommend community supervision for the defendant is a matter that rests within the sound discretion of the jury. If the jury does recommend community supervision, it will be granted by the court. If you recommend that the defendant be placed on community supervision, the court shall determine all the conditions of community supervision and may at any time during the period of community supervision alter or modify the conditions. The court may impose any reasonable condition. Should the punishment assessed by you include a fine, a recommendation of community supervision should state whether or not the fine will be paid or be suspended and probated. If there is any evidence before you that the defendant may have previously committed an act of misconduct other than that for which you have convicted him, you are instructed that this evidence, if any, was admitted to assist you, if it does, in determining what sentence is appropriate in the case at hand. You may consider that evidence in assessing punishment only if you first believe beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed such other act of misconduct, if any. In the event you have reasonable doubt as to whether any other such act of misconduct was committed, or as to whether the defendant was involved in such other act of misconduct, if any, then you will wholly disregard the evidence, if any, which may relate to any such matter. You are instructed that the defendant may testify in his own behalf if he chooses to do so, but if he elects not to do so, that fact cannot be taken by you as a circumstance against him, nor prejudice him in any way. The defendant has elected not to testify in this punishment phase of trial, and you are instructed that you cannot and must not refer or allude to that fact throughout your deliberations or take it into consideration for any purpose whatsoever. In your deliberations, you may consider evidence introduced during the guilt phase of the trial, as well as any evidence introduced at the punishment phase of the trial. Under the instructions herein given, it will not be proper for you in determining the penalty to be assessed to fix the same by lot, chance, any system of averages, or any other method than by a full, fair, and free exercise of the opinion of the individual jurors under the evidence admitted before you. The length of time for which a defendant is in prison may be reduced by the award of parole. Under the law applicable in this case, if the defendant is sentenced to a term of imprisonment, the defendant will not become eligible for parole until the actual time served equals 1/2 of the sentence imposed. If the defendant is sentenced to a term of less than 4 years, the defendant must serve at least 2 years before the defendant is eligible for parole. Eligibility for parole does not guarantee that parole will be granted. It cannot accurately be predicted how the parole law might be applied to this defendant if sentenced to a term of imprisonment, because the application of that law will depend on decisions made by parole authorities. You may consider the existence of the parole law. You are not to consider the manner in which the parole law may be applied to this particular defendant. A suitable form is attached hereto for your verdict if you should care to use the same. However, such form is not intended to influence you in any way in arriving at your verdict. In any event, your verdict must be unanimous in writing and signed by your presiding juror. Respectfully submitted, Judge Stephanie Boyd, 187 District Court, Bexar County, Texas, and suitable forms are attached. State, are you prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
Ladies and gentlemen, by your verdict, you have found the defendant guilty as charged in the indictment of aggravated assault causing serious bodily injury. As you know, this is a second-degree felony, which carries a punishment range from anywhere from 2 years to 20 years in prison. Now, you have heard that the defendant did file a sworn affidavit swearing that he is not a convicted felon and that fact makes him eligible for probation. Ladies and gentlemen, you are allowed to consider the evidence that you've seen in punishment and in the guilt innocence phase of the trial, and I submit to you that this is not a probation case. And at the conclusion of argument, we will be asking you to deny the defendant's application. And you will hear more from me in a little bit. And Judge, we reserve the rest of it.
All right. Defense?
May it please court, counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Again, I want to thank you for your time and attention. You know, you guys, you're always on time. You're always paying attention, and we can't tell you how much that means to all of us to get a fair trial. And you know, during the punishment time, this is the time we get to look at the bigger picture. And you know, we look at everything about the person. We look at all the things that they've done wrong. We look at all the things they've done right. We look at all of their character, what kind of person they are, because all of those are factors that you can use to decide what is the appropriate punishment. And we talked about it, you know, such a broad range, 2 to 20 years, to fit all the kind of things that could have happened you can imagine in an aggravated assault with a serious bodily injury case. So let's start with some of the negative things. I mean, so you heard that he had a prior conviction all the way back in 2003, 2 of those. You know, is that something you should consider? Absolutely. You need to consider everything. You need to take the broadest picture, but those were relatively minor offenses, did 6 months of probation and was released. Hasn't been in any trouble since then until this. And then we've got this other issue pending, and we'll talk about that. So you heard some testimony about another incident that happened about a month after this incident at the club where there was a shooting, and you saw the video of that. And what I will tell you is that is something that is just like this. It's very complex, and it's going to be decided by another jury on another day. I don't believe the state has proved that beyond a reasonable doubt. We're not going to do another full 2-week trial on that issue or a 1.5-week trial on that issue in this case. But it's relevant to you as much as it's relevant to you. But what I would tell you is it's a very complex case. You heard testimony and saw the video where Mariano Randone is in front of that vehicle that comes out at a very high rate of speed and is very dangerous. And you heard Sarah tell you that she was there and saw it, and she felt that his life was in danger. And so that's another issue for another day. And so I'd ask you just to table that. We'll look at this offense. So we always look at this offense and what's going on and the seriousness of this. Obviously, the injury is terrible. It's terrible that Paolo was injured so bad. I don't know that was really foreseeable. You know, I think that because he's twisting and the knee is coming down, that kind of torsion created this terror. And I'm very sad that this man went through that. I'm sad that was something that his wife had to go through. But we look at, was it done cruelly, or was it done to try to protect, maybe misguidedly, Anthony Cochran? And I would tell you that I believe it was done not out of cruelty. He actually liked this man. These people were his friends. He thought well of them. And he didn't even know that that's who was on the floor that night. What happened was, he was trying to protect this person, and he maybe got overzealous, or maybe you don't believe that what he did was appropriate, but it wasn't done out of cruelty. And that's really, really important. It wasn't done to be mean or to torture this man. It was done to try to resolve the situation. Unfortunately, this terrible injury occurred. The next thing you need to look at is all these people that came here to support him. And it's not just that they came to support him, it's what they had to say about him. It's about what kind of character he is. What an asset to our community. Somebody that's willing to go and buy groceries for people that are in need. A person that's willing to go do plumbing. A person that's going to reach out to widows, to young people. You heard multiple people tell you that he's not their biological father, but beyond his own children, they saw him as a father figure. And that's important because, a father figure is unfortunately lacking in our community. Strong men that are a good example. You see all the things that he did, buying groceries, paying electric bills, doing plumbing, doing odd jobs, taking people out for recreation, helping to do charity, involved with prayer work. All this stuff is a person, it's a snapshot of who that person is. And normally what I do is I do 3 or 4 witnesses and I call them, and it's a lot longer, but I felt like you needed to see that snapshot of all the people that he's touched in the community. And he is he's really been somebody that for all these people and all these other people that he's touched, whether it be through donations to the charities or helping to pray for people or go to their houses. I mean, he's really touched a lot of people's lives. And you need to consider that because it is important. This is not some evil, crazy man who's out trying to hurt people. You know, it's difficult when you're in the environment of a club at night where there's a lot of drinking going on. Sometimes patrons, and you know, I think he was very zealous in wanting to create an environment where people felt safe. I mean, it's good business in the sense that people are going to go to a club that they feel safe at. And there, you know, you have these isolated incidents that have occurred, but the overall idea was to keep the club safe place for him and his family who work there, and a safe place for the other patrons so that they could come, enjoy some music and that. I think if you look at the big picture of this, the good in this man clearly outweighs the bad. And I'm not saying he shouldn't be held responsible. I'm not saying that you know, you've said that you believe that he violated the law and he needs to be held responsible for that. But justice is really what justice is deciding the appropriate punishment for things. I was a prosecutor for a long time, and I used to tell the guys that work for me, I said, you know, we have 3 hammers. We got a big hammer, we got a medium hammer, and we got a little hammer. And the hardest part about this job is figuring out who to hit with which hammer, right? And I would tell you this is a little hammer case. Although it's serious, it is not somebody who is cruel. It's not somebody who's evil. It's not somebody who's out committing crimes. It is somebody out there trying to protect people that cares about him and himself. And maybe he was overzealous in doing that, or you feel that but was not done out of cruelty. And the good in this man so far outweighs the bad. All those things he did, all these people whose lives he's touched, and this is just a few. It clearly is outweighed by that. I like to tell people, you know, some lawyers don't like to talk about punishment ranges and stuff like that, but I think you need a guide. I do. I really believe you need a guide. I think an appropriate sentence in this case is somewhere between 2 to 4 years in the penitentiary. And then I think probation is, you know, he's never been convicted of a felony. I think probation is clearly warranted in this case. He's somebody, when you're again looking at the totality of the circumstances, that whole picture, I think that somewhere between 2 to 4 years in the penitentiary and a probated sentence is appropriate. You know, you need to do what you think is right as a group of people. You represent the people in Bexar County. We definitely want you to hold, you know, you found that he did something wrong. You need to hold him accountable for that. However, you need to temper that with fairness. You need to temper that with compassion. You need to temper that with all the things that we believe in as a society. And you need to do justice. And I'm sure you will. Thank you very much.
All right, state.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we all know what the defendant knows. And that's the philosophy of how he runs his club. And you heard him say it on the state's exhibit. He doesn't fuck around. That was his philosophy on July 23rd, 2023, when he fired into Oscar Del Fierro's truck. And that was his philosophy on August 20th of 2023, 28 days later, when he bluntly struck Pablo with his knee, causing him serious bodily injury. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you about some of the things that Mr. Bloomquist just said. So he's talking to you about what he thinks is an appropriate sentence of anywhere from 2 to 4 years and suspended and probated. So what that would look like is the defendant would be sentenced to anywhere from 2 to 4 years and then placed on probation for a period of time, not having to serve any jail time and immediately being released back into our community with conditions that are provided by the court. That is not appropriate in this case, given all of the evidence that you have seen in guilt, innocence, and in punishment. If you were to award probation, it would have to be for a term of 10 years or less, and then you can suspend and probate that. Should you feel that appropriate punishment is from 10 years or more, you could not give probation in that instance. But even if you feel that an appropriate sentence is maybe 8 years, you can still say, I want him to serve 8 years in prison and deny his application. And that is what I'm going to be asking you to do, to deny his application because it is not warranted. And although there were many witnesses that took the stand and testified about what a positive impact he has been in their lives, he has also negatively impacted people's lives. And that's something that you need to consider. Now, I want to talk to you all about the evidence and kind of contrast the two cases that you've heard about. And what we've learned is that the security companies, including the security employees and including Mr. Randone, who is not an employee of the security company but would like to purport that he is, they run the security in that club like a gang of bandits, vigilantes that want to take the law into their own hands. That type of behavior cannot be rewarded. What we've learned during the testimony is that you can't please them, okay? With Oscar Del Fierro, he was leaving too fast, and that's what placed them in fear for their lives. With Pablo, he wasn't leaving fast enough. All roads lead, in that club, all roads lead to using a level of force that is unjustified by law. Now, I want to talk to you about his character. We've heard from many witnesses that he has been a positive influence in their life. But let's talk about the type of business owner that he is, the type that he makes Pablo and Tina feel like they're his family. And he testified to that, and his wife and his daughter. That's the ambiance that they're trying to provide in that club. Oh, we're all family, we're all in this together. But that's not what they actually feel. And that's displayed in the evidence. Now, I want to talk to you about some of the statements that he made. You saw the statement that he gave to the police on July 23rd of 2023. And we did talk about some of the statements that he gave in the serious bodily injury case as well. And he appears to be forthcoming in most of his statements when there's no video evidence to contrast to what he's saying. And so he's trying to give this appearance to law enforcement. You know, I'm cooperating with you. I'm letting you know what you need to know. But he leaves major parts out, the parts that show that he is guilty, the parts that would cause law enforcement to dig deeper. He gives this narrative that is only favorable to him and the most favorable to him. And then when we have the video evidence, we can see that it's in stark contrast to what he said. When you look at State's Exhibit, I believe number 6, the video of the shooting, I encourage you when you retire to the jury room to go ahead and replay that. And what you're going to see is the defendant placing himself in front of that truck, displaying his firearm, aiming it at Oscar Del Fierro's truck, and advancing toward the truck saying, come on, come on. That's not somebody that is in fear for their life at all. And then you all can see the bullet hole defects in Oscar's truck. They continued firing into that truck well after Oscar left the premises. There was only one way in and out of the club on that night, and Oscar did what they were asking him to do. He was leaving, and that is what they did to him in return. The defendant is one of the most dangerous types of people that we have in our community because he presents well. You wouldn't think many of the witnesses were surprised by his criminal history and the facts that we're here for today. That is the most dangerous type of individual because you see how well he presents in contrast to the State's exhibits when he's cursing at Oscar Del Fierro, when he's putting his knee into Pablo. That is his character, and that is what you need to consider. We talked about this in jury selection. What is most important to you all when assessing punishment? And most of you said it was the seriousness of the facts of the case that we're here for today and whether acts like this have occurred prior or after. All of those are satisfied here. We've brought you evidence regarding previous criminal history. I might add one of them is also unlawfully discharging a firearm, so he has not learned his lesson from that, and cruelty to animals. If you look at the state's exhibit, you did hear from Sarah Mitchell. She said that she felt that the defendant's life was in danger. I implore you to look at the state's exhibit, but if anybody's life was in danger, it was hers.
2 minutes.
The way that they were recklessly firing those firearms, not only into the truck, but just all about in the parking lot. Now, we've heard a lot of testimony about people that the defendant has helped. And one person that he didn't help was Pablo, who you've heard testimony. He has lifelong injuries that he's going to live with forever. And he still has in the thousands of medical bills that he has to pay, that Pablo's responsible for through no fault of his own. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not fair, and that is not just. I submit to you that the appropriate punishment in this case is 12 years in prison and deny the application of the defendant for community supervision. Now, when you're assessing your punishment, you are able to consider the existence of the parole law, and you may consider it, and I urge you to consider it because your verdict decides when he's allowed to re-enter our community and, you know, when he's allowed to re-enter our community and what that would look like. And so I want you all to consider that when you think it's appropriate for him to re-enter the community, be out at Joe's Volcano again with patrons who may be not to his satisfaction, and what that's going to look like for him if somebody acts a way that he doesn't agree with. And so I ask you to send him to 12 years in prison. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard all the evidence that you're going to hear in this case during this phase of the trial. Deputy Laura will take you to the back. And of course, the two alternates will be placed in separate rooms. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors.